Hi, I'm Boomerang and you are watching a show about video games. You know, we're gonna have to come up with a better name for the show than that. I mean, sure, the wheel has a lot of video games on it, but not only video games. I didn't want to title the last video a show about video games, Fallout 4 Survival. Instead, I just called it Boomerang Fallout 4 Survival. So in the absence of any other better names, until somebody gives me a good name or I can come up with one, we're just gonna stick with that naming convention. Upon further reflection, I'm not too happy with the first video. I said what I wanted to say, and it was a little bit shorter than I would have preferred, and I kind of just got burnt out at the very end. But making it was kind of educational, and I really enjoyed it, so here we are again, making another one. Hopefully with each video I make, I can get better and better at editing and actually streamline the process a little bit so it doesn't take so long to get videos out. Speaking of the last video, there's at least 5 more of you watching now, which is really encouraging. And you know what? They say that comparison's a thief of joy, so I'm not going to compare myself to all these other YouTube channels that have like hundreds and thousands of subscribers. If I just picture 6 people sitting in front of me watching my video and enjoying it, that's really encouraging. So this video goes out to you 6 people who are watching me online. I'm pretty sure I know half of you, but the other half I don't, which is really neat. But we're here to talk about whatever the wheel decides, so let's get to the wheel and see what it chooses. You know what, that's technically 40k, but, and I know this is going to date the video, I'm not really talking about 40k right now. Because, well, their business model has begun to reflect the Inquisition more than anything else. And as much as I enjoy my wargaming hobby, it would be a video with mostly just me being angry and ranting, and that's not what this channel is actually for. Besides, the wheel is close enough to Project ZOMBOID that we're just going to talk about that since I have been playing it lately. But before we get into the game specifically, let's talk about the zombie survival genre because it's one of my favorites. Now, I know it's not exactly a hot take to say zombies are cool, but what can I say? Zombies are cool. If it works, it works. And as far as coupling different genres with video games, zombies and video games have done really well together. Now, in the late 2000s, early 2010s, zombie fever was taking over the entire world, and it seemed like we were getting new zombie games like every few months. But what can I say? If the games were good, I didn't have any complaints at all. Well, that's not true. I had 1 complaint. Or 2. Okay, you know what? I have a few. Let's get into them. Special mutant zombies kinda suck. As far as I can tell, it started with Left 4 Dead, and I think that game did them excellently. Excellently? Is that a word? They did that really good. But now, you can't have a zombie game without having the big fat ones that explode, the ones that can jump and move real fast, the giant tanks, which I can't think of any other word to use to describe them. Brute works also, I guess. But it doesn't really matter because the moment I said that, you knew exactly what I was talking about. But, okay, let me be clear, I'm not against special infected in principle. I just think people are really, really lazy when it comes to designing them nowadays. It seems like a lot of video games just copy Left 4 Dead, and you know what, copying Valve is a pretty safe bet to do things well, but when everybody else is doing it, it's not that special anymore. Look, Valve made even more Special Infected for Left 4 Dead 2 that were unique from the first game's Special Infected and fit in perfectly. So to be honest, I don't really have any complaints about them, but it seems like every other video game just has some different version of the ones we've already seen in Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. Which is a complete shame because I think that when zombies are unique and do different things, it can add a lot into the world and make the world feel a lot more dangerous and a lot more interesting. But I think that people and video game developers have gone just a little too heavy into the special infected thing, so much so that they've lost their impact and lost a lot of their uniqueness. Uniqueness? Is that a word? I need a dictionary. So here's what I think. I think video game developers need to make the common zombies a little bit more of a threat. You can start by making them a little bit more unpredictable. I know it's a pretty big staple of the genre that they're basically just moving straight at you at all times and they bang into things if they want to get to you, but actually giving them some sort of idea and having them move around. Now, I'm not saying like super smart zombies, but zombies that can at least surprise the player can go a really long way to making the game feel a lot more alive. No pun intended. And this is where we get into Project ZOMBOID, because I think this does it really well. It doesn't have any special infected, but the zombie hordes are the biggest threat in the game. I really like it when the common zombies are really dangerous and can kill you really, really easily. Now, Left 4 Dead did this completely differently, where the common infected can't really kill you all that quickly, and they're really easy to kill, and there are a lot of them. which works to Left 4 Dead's strengths, since in higher difficulties when you're being mobbed by them, they can take your health down very, very quickly. But the zombies in Left 4 Dead are a lot more manageable. You can kill them by the swaths and eliminate entire hordes by yourself in one Molotov cocktail. The hordes in Project Zomboid, however, are a little bit more difficult to manage, and also simultaneously a little bit easier to manage. In Project Zomboid, you will die if you get bit by a zombie. You may die even if you get scratched by a zombie, and you will definitely die if you get swamped by a large group of them. However, you won't die in Left 4 Dead if you're swamped by a large group, if you're quick and responsive enough to actually kill the group that is attacking you. In Left 4 Dead, a single common infected is kind of a joke. You shoot it once and it drops down dead. In Project Zomboid, if you shoot a zombie, that is a one-way ticket to very bad times. Because shooting a gun in Zomboid is the equivalent of setting off a car alarm in Left 4 Dead. In fact, I would actually love a mod that anytime you shoot a gun or make a loud enough noise, the Left 4 Dead horde sound plays. Now, I don't want to keep comparing Project Zomboid to Left 4 Dead because these games are completely different in their design philosophy. Left 4 Dead is a fast-paced co-op shooter with a lot of zombies and a lot of action, whereas Project Zomboid is a slow-burn zombie survival game. And you know what? I love both of these games for completely different reasons. I love Left 4 Dead because it's one of the best co-op games I think I've ever played, even 10 years after its release. And actually, Left 4 Dead 1 has a completely different tone to Left 4 Dead 2, although I think they're both great. Left 4 Dead 1 kind of had this really eerie end-of-the-world vibe, whereas Left 4 Dead 2 had this action thrill ride sort of vibe. Whereas Project Zomboid has this eerie, hopeless, end-of-the-world sort of atmosphere, a lot like Left 4 Dead 1. And you know what, while we're on it, I know last episode I said, when it comes to the internet, I think negative game reviews are kind of a saturated market at this point. And also, come to think of it, I'm pretty sure I said something about it earlier in this video. But to be perfectly honest, I just played the Back 4 Blood beta, and I'm gonna have to rant about it just a little bit. Back 4 Blood kind of fucking sucks. It's like somebody wanted to make Left 4 Dead in the modern times, and have all the nice bells and whistles that come with modern games, but didn't quite grasp the subtleties of what worked with Left 4 Dead 1 and 2. Back 4 Blood lacks the same charm, writing, atmosphere, and gameplay polish that Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 have, and they've been out for over a decade. And you know what, on this channel I don't really want to spend a lot of time ranting about things, but this really did bother me. Now, I appreciate that I've just played the beta and the game isn't out yet, but I'm just gonna be honest, I am not impressed and I'm not really excited for it. Because worst of all, it committed the one big zombie game sin. You know what, no, the big video game sin. It put me to sleep while I was playing it. And maybe it doesn't do that for you. Maybe you really enjoy this game. That's great, I think you're bonkers. But don't let that stop you. If you enjoy it, enjoy it. Don't take what I have to say too seriously. This is just me ranting what my own personal thoughts are. And you know what, I think I'm done. I don't need to talk about this game anymore. If I want to, I'll make a separate video. Instead, let's talk about some really good zombie games. I was kind of getting off topic since Back 4 Blood really made me angry, but let's get back on to the main subject, Project Zomboid. As you can see here, it kind of looks like an apocalyptic Sims 1 mod, but instead of watching your Sims accidentally burn down the house while making mac and cheese, you can watch them just die slowly from starving because all they have to eat is worms. And honestly, I kind of wish I made it to the starving stage, because for the first 10 games, I got bit or scratched and got infected almost immediately. And because you'll die so quickly from a single zombie bite or even a scratch, there will never be a time in the game where being careless won't potentially kill you. See, in games like Dead Rising, it's kind of the point to just kill as many of the zombies in one big swing as you can, whereas taking on more than 1 or 2 zombies at most in Project Zomboid is basically instant death. And you know what, I don't really like how in a lot of video games, zombies will be able to bite you, but it doesn't really have much of a consequence in the story or the gameplay. And you know what, a zombie bite being as devastating as it is in Project Zomboid is completely welcome in my book. If your character dies, you can make a new character and inhabit the old space and pick up all the old supplies that your old survivor dropped. Which, well, first you'll have to fight your old survivor as a zombie and they might wander off and you'll lose all the supplies. Unless you drink bleach right after you get bit. Then you'll die of the bleach and you won't turn, which I think is kind of hilarious. I'm just picturing a survivor getting bit and then going, "Welp," and then going home, sitting down in a chair and chugging an entire bottle of bleach. Which would not be my first go-to thing to kill myself if I was bitten by a zombie, but to each their own. Of course, the real reason I like Project Zomboid is for the stories it allows me to make up in my head. I like pretending that I'm this character and trying to think things through as he would, maybe even making a little backstory in my head for him. And since this game's kind of slow burn, you tend to get really attached to your character, which is fatal because you're going to die eventually. I mean, each game starts with, this is how you died. So the game's kind of presenting the entire story as the last few days or months or years of your survivor since the zombie apocalypse started and how they ultimately died. Which, as I said earlier, kind of affects the tone and atmosphere of the game and makes it a lot more desperate and bleak, and I'm all for that with zombie games. Despite the tone being so depressing, I was actually having a complete blast playing this game and capturing this footage. Though I can't say I had too much fun at first. I was getting really frustrated because I just kept dying over and over again. But as soon as I accepted the fact that my survivor was basically already dead when I started the game, I started to enjoy the game a whole lot more. Now, I have a tendency to get too wrapped up in the game and get really bent out of shape if I die or lose, but that didn't really happen too much with this game. At least, not after I got used to it. Because at first, I was really not used to this world and didn't understand the rules and kept making pretty big mistakes. But over time, as I played the game more, I started to learn the rules and learned how the AI worked, and eventually I was able to really start to carve out an existence for myself, before dying after a few days after I made another stupid mistake. But honestly, I think that's part of the game's charm. The game is very, very punishing, but it's also really rewarding if you know how to play it correctly. And of course, the longer you survive, the more tied up you get with the game, and then the more devastating it is eventually when you do die. But one of the things I really do enjoy about this game is the fact that the plans you make for survival in this kind of mirror what you might have to do in real life, and in that way it's really intuitive. Staying in the city area in this game is kind of a death sentence since there's going to be a lot of zombies there. But there's also a lot of supplies and opportunities for scavenging. So typically the best thing you can do is get out to a rural setting and get a car so you can travel into the city for small trips for scavenging supplies and food and weapons. Eventually you'll scrounge up enough supplies to eke out a little existence out in the rural area. I can't say rural at all. Rural. Eventually you'll start living out in the country almost exclusively, growing food and gathering water and only going in for supplies that you absolutely need. But the game always kind of taunts you because you really want to hoard as much as you can, but you know you also have to be careful since you really can't carry that much, and carrying a lot slows you down. And hey, maybe that whole country life doesn't sound like the way you'd want to play the game, so you could just parkour and sneak around the city and try to survive as long as you can. I guarantee you won't survive very long, but it might be more interesting and more intense. Also, just a side note, avoid checking out the map as much as you can. As helpful as it is, it kind of ruins some of the experience, and I think it's really cool learning the map on your own and just figuring out where things are or finding the maps in the game. It actually feels really great to figure out where things are in relation to each other by exploring and starting to recognize the areas you've been to before in previous games. Or you could do it the old-fashioned way and just make an actual map with pen and paper. I really love when games make me do that because I tend to get a lot more engaged into the world and where things are anytime I have to actually put pen to paper. But truth be told, I don't get to the long-term survival stage very often in this game. I usually die in the first 10 days, which, you know what? As much as I'd hate to admit it, that's probably an accurate representation of how I'd do in a real-life zombie apocalypse. Which is probably just about as well as anybody watching this video, because you're not going to survive a zombie apocalypse. And you know what? I can hear the Cheeto dust-covered fingers typing away at the keyboard right now. Because most people's zombie plans are kind of bullshit. No, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun to kind of picture that and imagine it and try to see what you might have to do in the situations like that. Actually, the CDC recommends that you do have a zombie plan, because if you're prepared for a zombie apocalypse, you're basically prepared for any other kind of apocalyptic scenario. But I'm pretty sure most of the people on the internet would die if there wasn't enough air conditioning, so I don't think they have the grit that is required to survive a zombie apocalypse. Now, don't get me wrong, neither do I. But you know what, maybe I'm not being fair. It really depends on the type of zombie virus and how the zombies work. Are we talking George Romero slow stumbling zombies like the ones in Walking Dead, or the Rage virus 28 days later Left 4 Dead kind? Because there's a big difference between the two. Depending on how contagious the zombie virus is, you might not even make it one day. You know, if you were to ask me a few years ago if we would survive a global pandemic like zombie apocalypse, I'd say, definitely. I think the chumps in Walking Dead had no idea what they were doing if they died to slow, shambling zombies like that. But seeing how most of y'all handled this last year when the, strange unspecified virus of unknown origin was going on, yeah, I don't have much hope anymore for people surviving the zombie apocalypse. Which brings up another point. Why in The Walking Dead did the military ever fail? I know I'm not the first person to bring this up, but these zombies are really, really easy to handle, and I mean, I get it, there were a lot of them, but you remember how there was that Area 51 raid where everybody was gonna run inside and try to see what was going on, and they said, they can't stop all of us. Yeah, they can. Very, very easily. Do you have any idea how many guns there are in the United States? According to the Small Arms Survey, there's about 120.5 guns for every 100 people in the United States alone. And that's why I said it depends on the type of zombies. If it's fast-running, super contagious zombies like 28 Days Later, yeah, I can see how they can overtake the government, but slow, shambling, Walking Dead zombies? No, I can't really see it. Actually, in Project Zomboid, you're able to determine what kind of zombies you want to run into. If you want the running zombies, or the fast shambling zombies, or the slow shambling zombies, you can actually choose that in Sandbox. I don't know why you would want to do that, since, you know, fast zombies are not fun to play against in this game. I get the slow zombies, I actually do that occasionally if I'm looking for a more laid-back experience while I'm playing Zomboid, but the Sandbox mode really allows you to experiment and see how you like the game. Maybe you don't want the power to turn off for the first year of the zombie apocalypse, you know, that makes things a little bit more simple. Or you want ammo and resources to be plentiful, or even more rare than they usually are. I really like games that allow you to customize your experience to this extent. It adds a lot of replayability and a lot of personalization. And if you really are interested in this game, check out some of these YouTube channels. They have a lot of videos on Zomboid and can really show you the kind of fun you can have with the game. Well, that's about all I have to say about Project Zomboid. Playing it for the first time has been a real blast, and these are about all the thoughts I can share. If this game looks fun, and maybe there's a few things you'd like to be a little different, check out the mods they have on Steam Workshop. It'll really change the gameplay style for you. And you know what? Even though there was a massive influx of zombie games in the mid to late 2000s, I think we're kind of going through a drought right now, and this game has really helped me get my fix. It was definitely a fix I wasn't getting with Back 4 Blood. But you know what? Games being not as good as they used to be is kind of a recurring theme I'm finding. So you just gotta stay positive and look for the good stuff, because it's out there. And you know what, if you're watching this years down the line and a zombie apocalypse has happened, feel free to leave a comment and let me know how accurate this game ended up being, because I get the feeling that the dying part is pretty accurate. So, thanks for watching this video. It wasn't as hard to make as the Fallout one, and really wasn't meant to be, but I had fun making it, and I hope to make more videos in the future. And I might be dipping my toes in other types of videos and stuff, so if you want some variety, stay tuned. Maybe in a few weeks or months I'll make something different. Who knows? We'll just have to see how it goes.